We turn now to Republican Congressman Don Bacon. He joins us from Omaha, Nebraska. Good morning, Congressman. And we understand it is your birthday, so happy birthday, and thank you for spending part of it with us.
Good morning to you. And yeah, I'm 9 years old and dog years, so that makes me feel better.
Okay, well, if you could do the math, you'll figure that out. But we appreciate you being here. I want to start this morning with something the president had to say on Friday about the state of the economy and the state of the war with Iran. Take a listen.
For you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline, just remember you're doing it so that a very evil country cannot have a country. Really, it's the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. We don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. So remember that when you have to pay a little bit more, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, it's I'll never apologize. I did the right thing.
I know you're not running for re-election this fall, Congressman, but in the context of the midterm elections, is the president's justifications for gas prices across the country helpful to Republicans on the ballot this fall?
Well, I think here, and in the tape you just played, he was being honest. And I think he was setting maybe false expectations in the previous months during the initial parts of this campaign with Iran, saying we're going to get a deal tomorrow, we're going to get a deal tomorrow, and not. This is going to be a longer-term fight, and I think he needed to set appropriate and honest expectations here. Iran has killed about 1,000 Americans. It has been the world's leading exporter of terror. In fact, 600 Americans were killed in Iraq from primarily those very dangerous roadside bombs that Iran made and sent to all the terrorists in Iraq. And I just think it was important for him to level with the American people. This is going to be a tough fight, and we cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't think we should allow Iran to kill 1,000 Americans. This should probably have been done a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think he started out this whole war with, this is going to be an easy fight. We're going to be done here. It's going to take a month, 2 months. Okay, we're going to get a deal tomorrow. And I think those false expectations hurt him, and it's hurt the favorability of what we're trying to do here.
But do you get a sense he feels the pain of Americans, the economic pain?
He doesn't communicate it well. As you mentioned, he makes light of the affordability question, and we do have an affordability problem. And I think a better way for him to frame it, we had 9% inflation under Joe Biden. Of course, it went down towards the end of his presidency, but the Americans have never recovered from that. And once again, inflation is slightly higher than wages.
Yeah. So
I think most Americans are feeling the pain at the grocery store and the gas. So I think it's better just to acknowledge, hey, this is a problem. And we got to work towards getting wages climbing faster than inflation. But one of the ways we could do that is to change his tariff policy. Tariffs have hurt inflation. It's not only just the war with Iran and gas. Tariffs have also had an impact here. And I would encourage the president to review the tariff policy. Global tariffs, it ends up being a tax on consumers, and we're paying more because of it.
Well, the fate of the USS Abraham Lincoln has been in the news in recent days. It is now expected to return to port after a more than 9-month deployment amid concerns about living conditions aboard the vessel. The president was also asked about this on Friday. Take a listen to this, what he said.
The deployment's gone on too long?
No. Not nearly long enough.
Not nearly long enough the deployment has been, he said. Was the president wrong to be dismissive about the concerns aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln?
I think so, Ed. It would have been better to acknowledge, hey, long deployments are hard. I did 1 year in Iraq. I had three other deployments to Iraq or the area that were shorter. But when I was in Iraq for a year, there were Marines and soldiers there for 18 months. So I think it's better to acknowledge, hey, this is hard on the families. It's hard on the service members. Thank them for being willing to defend our country and doing these 10-month deployments if you're on an aircraft carrier. I think that would have been a much more better way of addressing this issue. It is hard on families. We should acknowledge that. But we've done it for previous wars and deployments, and we'll have to do so in the future. I think that's a better way to phrase it.
The USS George Washington is now headed in to that region as the Lincoln comes back or heads to port. Do you think there needs to be some kind of congressional investigation or review of the last 9 months and what was going on aboard that carrier?
And we should have oversight. We should bring in the Secretary of the Navy or the commander, the service chief of the Navy, and have them explain to us the truth on that. But I served on an aircraft carrier as an Air Force guy during my 30 years in the Air Force. And we had some of these incidences when I was on the carrier. This was back in 1996 when we weren't at war. We were doing the southern no-fly zone for Iraq. We were trying to deter Iran, but we had a couple members jump overboard and commit suicide while I was on that deployment. So these incidences, they're terrible, they're sad, but it has happened previously, and unfortunately, likely in the future as well.
You know, we're about 5.5 months into the war, and earlier this month you argued Iran believes they can drag the president along. Looking at the battlefield as it currently stands, has the U.S. lost its advantage in this war?
We still have the advantage, but we have to be patient. And I think that was the point I was trying to make when I said that Iran was dragging the president. When Iran hears the president say, we're going to get a deal today, we're going to get a deal tomorrow, they want a deal, Iran doesn't think that way. What they were hearing was weakness. The president should say less, keep the pressure on. This blockade is crippling to Iran, and we need to keep that blockade ironclad, not let a single ship enter or leave the ports out of Iran. Their economy is in tatters. The leadership there is struggling. Keep the pressure on and say less. That would be my advice to the president.
And how do you assess the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's performance during all this?
Well, I think he's following the wishes of the president. I do have concerns that the president said he was not aware that we had a shortage of weapons like cruise missiles and Patriots. That's not a good thing. I think that's the number one issue. We've conducted these operations, and it appears, though there's been a lack of transparency, I think we'll get some transparency when we go back to the Washington, D.C. here on the 31st of August. But there's a big concern for many of us that when you have a shortage of Patriots, shortage of cruise missiles and other weapons, that this has not been managed well, and the fact that the president claims he did not know. So that's a concern.
Real quick, in our new CBS News poll, more registered voters describe the Republican Party as extreme more than anything else, 58%. You're one of the few mainstream moderates left in the House Republican Conference. Like I said, you're retiring, you're not running for re-election this year. But what do you think Republican leaders could do to meaningfully tack the party back to the center and reverse those numbers?
Well, I became a Republican when I was 13 years old, when Ronald Reagan ran in 1976. He lost to Gerald Ford, but he won 4 years later. His philosophy, I believe, is still popular. I've pushed back in a few areas. Republicans have never supported tariffs since World War II, and suddenly we're the party of tariffs. It is not working, I don't think, in the Midwest. So I think Republicans could reclaim the middle if we push back more on tariffs. Also, 70% of Americans support Ukraine, and yet the president has not been that supportive. So there's some areas here that we could push back on the White House and also be where most Americans are at.
Congressman, thank you so much. Happy
Thank you.
birthday. We appreciate it. And we will be right back with a lot more Face the Nation. Stay with us.